The beloved indie horror game about killer animatronic robots that came out in 2014 made a lot of people scared. A lot of people thought the animatronics were very creepy and the overall setting was scary. However, the newest release in the franchise, Fnaf Security Breach, has been met with a lot of criticism because it wasn't scary. I agree, honestly. I have never felt the unnerve and eeriness I got playing the first Fnaf in my entire playthrough of Security Breach. So I asked myself this: what made the first Fnaf so scary? Well, I am here to answer this question, so let's start. Now before we start, actually, I want to talk about something. I know that the remake Five Nights at Freddy's Plus is in development, and it looks like it is going to be much creepier than the first game, but this video is going to focus on the first FNAF, not the remake. When you enter a night in FNAF, you are met with a small room, two dark hallways to your right and left, a buzzing noise, and a phone call. Right off the bat, I love the presentation. It makes the player feel trapped because of the endless darkness beyond the doors. The room is very dimly lit, which I feel also adds to the creepiness. The player, of course, has the light and doors. These provide a sense of security to the player by letting the player defend from the animatronics and assuring them that there isn't anything in the doorway. However, the player quickly learns that these resources are limited. This makes it so that the player is required to use the lights and doors sparingly. I love the addition of the buzzing noise, this one. It sounds like a very small addition, but it makes hearing creepy sound effects like footsteps and Freddy's laugh more difficult. However, the creepiness isn't just in the office. The office is only the beginning. For now, let us focus on the visual part. I will talk about the audible part later. This game has a lot of Easter eggs. Most of them are creepy, like the endoskeleton and heads looking at you in the parts and service room and the crying children posters. However, these are rare. I feel like their rareness adds to the creepy factor they give off. They give the player the feeling that something out of the ordinary has happened, which I think is really creepy. Also, the random "it's me" and the animatronic heads glitching out can really make the player jump a little. When I played the game, that little jump scare got me. It was unexpected and creepy. The phrase itself, "it's me," is unnerving. I mean, what or who is saying it? I know that there is a lore explanation for the phrase, but if you take someone who has no idea about the lore of the games, then that phrase leaves the player with a lot of questions. Moving on, the kitchen camera. You might be thinking, how does a blank camera add to the creepiness of a game? Well, the fear of the unknown. The game never tells the player what's in the kitchen camera, you can only hear sound. I think that this is really cool and it is a good example of less is more. Now, let us talk about the animatronics and how they are presented in the cameras. We can get a nice look at Freddy, Bonnie and Chica on the show stage. I honestly find it really creepy how they are presented. They look very lifeless because of their empty eyes they have because of the lighting and angle. It makes them look really creepy. I mean, what is scarier than Bonnie? A Bonnie with no eyes, of course. Well, I do know they have eyes. The way the static and lighting are makes their eye socket look empty, which is really creepy and has been used for other FNAF characters to make them look creepier. They look lifeless, but you quickly realize they aren't when they start moving. Some more examples of these animatronics looking creepy on the cameras are Bonnie standing in a parts and service room. He's hanging out, having a fun time, but suddenly boom! Bonnie stares you right in the eyes. This scared a lot of players playing the game. But why? Well, one reason is because it's unusual. An animatronic staring right at you, and I mean in your face, doesn't happen much, not counting the jump scares. So Bonnie suddenly staring at you is very frightening to the player because of how unexpected it is. It is also scary because of how it looks like. Like I previously stated, what is more scarier than Bonnie? A Bonnie with no eyes. Yes, that's right. Or well, black hard to see eyes with white pupils. Stuff like the animatronics glitching out in the corners right next to your office are also creepy. Now possibly the scariest part of the game for most people are the jump scares. So let's talk about them. The jump scares in this game are simple but effective. Bonnie and Chica are both in your face when you pull down your cameras. Foxy and Freddy have a little unique jump scares. Foxy leans into your office, which I feel works because it's random. You never know exactly when the jump scare is coming, but it is really scary once it does. Imagine you are looking down a hallway that is pure dark and looks like some sort of abyss, but suddenly something emerges from that abyss and screams at you. That is why I feel Foxy's jump scare works. Well, at least if you're looking to the left. If you're looking to the right, it's much less scary and threatening. I feel like Freddy's first jump scare is much more scary. I feel like it's Foxy's jump scare but better. He comes out of nowhere like Foxy but actually gets in your face and has some creepy eyes. Black eyes and white pupils. Where have I seen that before, huh? Golden Freddy is simple, but it works. It is very different from the other jump scares. It uses a different sound and it is a still image. But I feel like it works because the image itself paired with the sound is creepy. This brings us to the jump scare Freddy does when the player runs out of power, and I have to say, this is the worst one. It isn't that scary because, well, I feel like it looks a little silly. Freddy slinging his head towards you while constantly moving his head left and right is a little silly, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not saying it can't be scary. It can still be scary, but I feel like it hits the least out of the jump scares in this game. Overall, I think the jump scares are good, even to this day. Moving on to the main 4 animatronics, or well, their designs. I will mostly talk about what makes these animatronics creepy. First of all, let us start with something they all have in common: the uncanny valley. The animatronics are obviously animatronics. They're robots. Well, performing robots. So, would it not be weird if they started going after you and attempted to murder you? This is one of the game's design aspects I love. The animatronics look like they're lifeless, but they aren't. This doesn't only apply to these animatronics. Fear of mannequins, for example. Many people fear mannequins. Why? Well, I feel like because it is something resembling a humanoid, like the Fnaf animatronics do because of their arms, legs, torso, and head, but it isn't actually a human. And that makes it extra creepy if the lifeless things suddenly start moving and try to murder you. The animatronics look like lifeless figures standing on the stage, but suddenly they start going after you and reveal that they are in fact capable of moving and ready to go after you. Now that we got the uncanny valley part out of the way, I would like to move on to the more specific details each of the animatronics has. Let's start with Bonnie, because he is most likely the first animatronic you will encounter. What I really like about Bonnie's design that, well, makes him creepy is surprisingly his giant eyes. I mean, just look at them. They look like they are staring right into your soul. And to be honest, I think it's creepy. The weird look he is giving is just creepy and terrifying in my opinion. Although some, or maybe the most of you watching this might think that this render of him isn't scary at all, I disagree. I cannot exactly put my finger on it, but his big eyes staring right at you when he is so close is just creepy. Moving on, let's look at Chica. What I like about Chica's design is her creepy endoskeleton teeth. Now I know what you might be thinking, but every animatronic has a row of endoskeleton teeth. Yes, I know, but I feel like the creepy teeth don't stick out as much on the other animatronics as on Chica. I mean, look at this. Her creepy teeth are very easily visible to the player. The endoskeleton teeth make Chica look more uncanny. She looks like something is hiding inside her. It might be dumb, but I feel like the extra creepy teeth deep inside Chica's mouth make her creepier. I think it's because it makes Chica look more robotic, reminding the player that Chica isn't supposed to move, but she does. Which I think is the main reason FNAF animatronics are creepy, because, well, they're not supposed to move, but they are. Now that we're done with Chica, I will move on to Foxy. Foxy is interesting. By that I mean he is different from all of the other animatronics. His overall form is way skinnier than the rest. Foxy is also visibly damaged and has a theme. He is a pirate. I feel like Foxy's damage makes him creepier because of his visible endoskeleton. Just like with Chica, I feel like his visible endoskeleton makes him look more like he shouldn't be moving, but he is. Not much more to say because the visible endoskeleton skeleton is something I talked about before because Chica also has it. Well then, how about we move on to the star of the show? That's right, I'm talking about Freddy Fazbear himself. Freddy has a pretty basic design, and I feel like a lot of his creepy aspect comes from him being difficult to track if you aren't listening for him. He often hides in the background and is difficult to see, which makes him creepy because it is harder to know where he is and therefore harder to defend against him. The fingerprints he has on his face are also creepy, but I wouldn't really count that because it is very difficult to spot in the game. I don't have much to say about Golden Freddy. Yeah, he's creepy because he is Yellow Freddy and looks like a lifeless suit. Most people do not get the Golden Freddy Easter egg in the game. He is still creepy, but never a threat the player has to constantly worry about. Well, now that we talked about the visual horror aspect of the game, I would like to move on to the sound section. This game utilizes sound in a very creepy way. Bonnie and Chica's creepy moans, or whatever they are, I'll show them later, or the Night 5 phone call. So I will go over some examples of how Fnaf uses audio to enhance the horror. Oh, by the way, check out this video. It is much better and more detailed than mine. It also has a lot better editing and is just better than my video. There is a random chance that some creepy children's music will play. This music raises a couple of questions. Does this music mean anything important? Or who or what turned it on? It is really unusual and not expected to the player. If there is almost no sound but suddenly some loud creepy music played, that can be pretty scary. Another thing is the Night 5 and 6 phone call. In the Night 5 phone call, the player can hear Phone Guy's voice just like the nights before this one. But Phone Guy sounds a little different. He sounds like he is in distress. He also talks about some creepy things like checking in on suits in the back office. This makes the player raise some questions like, what suits and why should I check on them? However, while Phone Guy is talking, you can hear a loud tapping noise, kind of like if something was with Phone Guy. Shortly after, you can hear a scream and the phone call ends. This is really creepy and a very unexpected event, and I honestly adore it because of how it can make the player panic. I mean, if that thing killed Phone Guy, it would definitely be able to kill you. In Night 6, a night after Phone Guy's death, someone is still trying to call you. That's weird. This confused some players. Did the Phone Guy die last night? Well, when the phone call plays, the player is quick to learn that yes, Phone Guy did die, a tragic death, and the thing that killed him is now talking to you. The creature speaks some creepy, deeply toned gibberish, and it can be really creepy because the voice itself is scary. The phone call also has some other creepy sounds like part of Golden Freddy's jump scare and has the other jump scare sound, the iconic high-pitched scream. There isn't much more to say about these phone calls, so I would like to move on to the jump scare sounds. Let's start with the classic, the jump scare sound everyone except Golden Freddy uses. In 3, 2, 1. This is one of my favorite jump scare sounds in the entire franchise. I think my favorite part is how the pitch is a contrast to the rest of the sounds. Think about it, almost every other sound in the game, especially those in the night sections, have a low pitch and are deep. This makes it really scary when you suddenly hear a really loud high-pitched sound. I feel like the pitch contrast plays a big role in the jump scare. A sudden noise that is different from almost everything else is really scary. I feel like the jump scare sound has the perfect mix of being realistic and being sort of robotic. By that I mean it sounds a little bit like a human scream and a sort of robotic yell. Moving on to the Golden Freddy jump scare sound. I feel like this suits Golden Freddy because it is different from the rest of the animatronics, which portrays that he himself is different. This jumpscare sound is creepy and I feel like it is pretty effective. I think it's worse than the first jumpscare sound we talked about, but I feel like it gets the job done and Golden Freddy deserved his own because, well, he is unique. Well, now that we're done with talking about the jumpscare sounds, I would like to move on to some other creepy sounds. For example, Bonnie and Chica's moans or whatever they are. I'm not quite sure. This sound creeped out a lot of people, and to this day I still think that it's a creepy sound. It sounds almost like a real person is making them. This is creepy because the animatronics sound humanoid, but aren't. I feel like it really is very creepy, especially the first time you hear it. But how about we talk about the ambiance this game has? It is honestly terrifying. Sometimes ambiance will play and it's really creepy. It is hard to describe. Here, listen. It really adds to the horror of the game. It gives off a creepy feeling. It is still really creepy, and even listening to it outside of the game, like on a walk late at night or in your house when it's pitch dark, is creepy. So yeah, everything I said in this video is basically why I think Fnaf 1 is so scary. Wow, this was a long video. Well, at least compared to my other videos. If you enjoyed, please consider liking or subscribing. It actually does mean a lot. This was Gamespeaking, and goodbye.